She did it on purpose. Archie and Lily have finally...
Behind closed doors, a decision has quietly reshaped Prince Harry's future. After signing a custody agreement few saw coming, Harry reportedly breaks his silence, unveiling a secret linking Meghan and Prince Andrew that has stunned royal watchers worldwide. Whispers turn into headlines as timelines collide, motives are questioned, and palace insiders scramble to contain the fallout. Supporters demand answers, critics sense betrayal, and the monarchy braces for impact. But what exactly compelled Harry to sign, and why reveal this explosive claim now, knowing it could permanently alter every relationship involved? The Red Folder at Windsor. London was rocked by shocking breaking news. In early February 2026, Buckingham Palace confirmed that Archie, 7, and Lilibet, 5, had been formally removed from Meghan Markle's custodial influence. And this was not rumor, gossip, or a sudden palace mood swing. The trigger was a sealed legal brief delivered at dawn to Windsor Castle, carrying the kind of information that never surfaces unless the situation has already become dangerously serious. What truly rattled the palace was not a public argument, but a quiet disappearance. Days earlier, a California school administrator had raised an internal alarm after noticing something that made no sense. On January 31st, Meghan had withdrawn both children from their private Santa Barbara schools without notifying the UK liaison team, the school's assigned mediator, or any welfare contact tied to the existing custody structure. The subject line on the report was blunt: no show, immediate concern. There was no replacement school listed. No spring enrollment, no forward plan. Just silence. Inside Windsor Castle, the reaction was immediate and fierce. Princess Anne, known for her patience only when duty demands, convened an unscheduled crisis summit on February 2nd. She arrived with a red folder marked "Immediate Custodian Breach," placing it firmly before King Charles without softening her words. This was no longer about image or bruised royal pride. It was about children removed from stability without explanation. The file revealed cancelled pediatric appointments, directives for Meghan's legal team to block communication with royal education and welfare officials, and the shocking financial blow. Documents showing the dissolution of a £3 million trust fund meant for Archie and Lilibet's UK education. The Crown now faced a crisis unlike any before. The most chilling revelation came from a confidential intelligence memo dated January 29th. It suggested Meghan had spent months preparing a full maternal disassociation, not to negotiate custody, but to sever connection. A signed NDA with a Dubai-based media financier allegedly demanded erasing all prior family ties before launching a solo brand. Internal legal notes reportedly declined participation in Harry's proposed joint custody agreement, while Archewell contracts flagged instructions to remove references to the children from Spotify and Netflix marketing by mid-2026. A senior palace official described it as darker than mere conflict. Not co-parenting, not a dispute, an identity removal. That afternoon, Prince William reportedly left an economic summit in Manchester for Windsor. Given the same red folder, he read the final page, looked up, and said something that shifted the entire crisis. This was no longer about Meghan, it was about the survival of two children, emotionally, legally, and historically. Within hours, Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh was authorized to activate emergency custodial safeguard protocols. A formal case file was opened, and for the first time in modern royal history, the Crown prepared to invoke structural guardianship over minors, not to punish a parent, but to prevent royal children from being pulled into a vanishing act. At 10:20 a.m., Prince William entered the royal legal chamber and invoked Appendix 4 of the Royal Succession Stabilization Act, a clause untouched since the era of Edward VIII. The council vote was unanimous. And in that single decision, the palace drew a line that Meghan's world would never be able to step back over. Through whispers, protocols, and silent paperwork, the palace reacted with precision. But what does this reveal about how far they'll go to protect the children and the secrets behind closed doors? The Crown's three-step lockdown. The moment the children's names surfaced in the wrong kind of conversation, the palace didn't hesitate. It moved like a machine that had been waiting for this exact signal. Not with speeches, not with sympathy, with paperwork, protocols, and a cold, legal silence that spoke louder than any royal press release. Behind closed doors, 3 actions were triggered almost at once. First came the passport freeze. Archie and Lilibet's international travel rights were suspended, meaning no child could cross UK borders without dual authorization from the Princess Royal and the Crown's Child Welfare Council. Then came the image shield, enforced through the Windsor Privacy Act of 2023, locking down commercial use of the children's names, likenesses, and any Sussex-related branding for 5 years. Finally, the Royal Restoration Fund appeared, Prince William's £12 million trust designed to support emotional recovery, private education, and reintegration care. This wasn't public messaging. This was dynastic firewalling. What made the situation erupt wasn't a press interview or a social media post. It was something far quieter and far more alarming. Meghan Markle reportedly withdrew Archie and Lilibet from their California private school without explanation. Within hours, the British royal household's internal crisis unit reportedly treated it as a trigger event, activating a mechanism that had been left dormant since the early 1940s. The Royal Guardianship Protocol. A centuries-old safeguard allows the Crown to assert custodial oversight when royal children face threats to their welfare or stability. This time, the action didn't unfold at Buckingham Palace but at Sandringham, where Princess Anne, on behalf of the Crown's Child Welfare Committee, called an emergency meeting with senior legal advisors, Prince William, and a rare virtual appearance by Lord Alastair Pembroke of the Privy Council. The agenda was clear: establish legal jurisdiction, protect the children's well-being, and prevent royal heirs from being turned into commercial assets. Insider reports claim Meghan's withdrawal of Archie and Lilibet from school wasn't merely a parenting choice. It was allegedly part of a media strategy, a docuseries pitched to a Middle Eastern production house, positioning the children as story anchors, brand mascots, and proof of a royal legacy. The monarchy had already noticed the pattern. On January 31st, Prince William reportedly submitted a sealed dossier to the Privy Council, verified by Royal Treasury officials. The contents were described as extensive: a full audit of alleged monetization attempts involving the children's names and images, legal correspondence linked to attempts to register Archie and Lilibet as trademarks across multiple jurisdictions, and risk metadata tied to PR firms connected to celebrity gifting suites. Even more troubling were references to upcoming branded baby product lines, reportedly framed around Princess Diana's legacy. That same evening, Princess Anne issued a statement, short, firm, and unmistakably final. And in that moment, the Sussex narrative stopped being a family drama. It became a jurisdictional war. While what began as a family drama escalated, the House of Windsor moved in quiet, calculated steps. But how did this silent constitutional battle over a child unfold? And who truly held the power behind the scenes? The Crown draws the line. The House of Windsor does not move in public panic. It moves in silence, in paperwork, in sealed letters, and in rules older than headlines. And once the Crown decides a child has been turned into a product, the response is never emotional. It is constitutional. By early February 2026, the atmosphere inside royal circles had shifted from concern to something colder: finality. The courtroom ruling delivered on 1 February did not merely weaken Meghan Markle's position, it erased it. Insiders described the decision as historic, officially removing any remaining custodial influence she could claim over Archie and Lilibet. Meghan was absent. Her legal team termed it a withdrawal, but within royal eyes, her absence signaled surrender. What followed was far from gossip. It was machinery in motion. Within hours, Princess Anne appeared at St. James's Palace for a rare live statement, cutting through the noise with brutal clarity. She declared that the Crown no longer recognized any informal maternal privileges once extended. Her message carried no softness, only duty. The children's welfare, she insisted, must reflect royal standards, not commercial ambition. Then the dominoes began to fall. Accounts tied to a private holding structure connected to Meghan were reportedly frozen, with regulators in both the UK and Canada stepping in. Sponsorships linked to a children's storytelling project collapsed almost overnight. Deals that once seemed secure simply vanished, as if they had never existed. Even online, the change was immediate. Mentions of the children disappeared from major platforms. Old descriptions were edited. Promotional thumbnails quietly replaced. References were scrubbed. Meghan's team offered a vague statement, citing privacy and ongoing legal proceedings. But royal sources suggested a stronger force had been activated behind the scenes. A formal digital identity protection order tied to international child welfare protocols. The message was unmistakable. Archie and Lilibet were no longer available for branding, storytelling, or leverage. Prince Harry, sources say, did not see it coming. He reportedly requested temporary custody rights, only for the request to be rejected on technical grounds. Travel restrictions, unresolved U.S. residency issues, and the absence of a stable income structure weighed heavily against him. In royal logic, it was not personal. It was procedural. Then the letter arrived. It was Prince Edward, long regarded inside the family as the quiet executor of uncomfortable decisions, who delivered the final instruction via royal courier. No drama, no argument, just a single message drafted with King Charles's knowledge. Custody, guardianship, and protection of the Windsor children now fell solely under Crown protocol. Further conditions would follow if Harry wished to visit. After that, the Crown did what it has always done when controlling the future. It secured it. A widely discussed £8 million trust, said to have been created for Archie and Lilibet's independence, was frozen and quietly dismantled after palace accountants reportedly confirmed it had never been protected through royal channels. Brand deals, licensing contracts, even projects using the children's names were declared void under Windsor standards. Then came the sharpest measure of all, a sovereign guardianship directive, echoing powers last used during the 1936 abdication crisis. Both children's UK passports were locked under royal security custody. Legally, they could not leave the United Kingdom until age 16 without Crown-approved escort. Meanwhile, at Windsor, the story shifted from legal to human. Catherine, Princess of Wales, adjusted her schedule to support Lilibet with therapy and a trusted nanny, encouraging George and Charlotte to include her. A single photo, Lilibet holding Charlotte's hand, spoke louder than words. The Sussex crisis escalated as Edwardian protocol quietly resurfaced, turning family tension into strict royal procedure. But what exactly does this nearly century-old mechanism entail, and how did it reshape the unfolding drama? Let's uncover the details. The protocol that changed everything. The moment the sealed Edwardian protocol was quietly pulled from the shadows, everything around the Sussex crisis stopped being family drama and became something far colder. Royal procedure. Sources insist it was Prince William himself who ordered it invoked, activating a mechanism first drafted under Queen Mary nearly a century ago. It was never meant for headlines, and it was never meant to be used in public. Yet, in the space of days, it became the most powerful move the palace had made in years. behind closed doors, this single document granted the heir temporary guardianship authority in a time of instability, an extraordinary step that suggested the Crown no longer viewed the situation as manageable through private negotiations. Even more striking was what followed. Princess Catherine has reportedly stepped into a position no modern consort has been trusted to hold since the post-war era. She is said to be personally overseeing the emotional and educational welfare of Lilibet, who remains at a private estate in Surrey under strict supervision. One anonymous royal nanny described the atmosphere as calm but tightly controlled, adding that Lilibet is adapting far better than anyone expected. Most telling of all, she reportedly trusts Catherine completely, an emotional detail that carries enormous weight when everything else feels like it is collapsing. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Meghan's world began to crack in a way no polished statement could fix. In Los Angeles, the whispers were not sympathetic, they were strategic. Netflix reportedly froze pending negotiations, and talent agents began to step back in quiet, deliberate moves. In Hollywood, reputation is currency, and insiders say Meghan's name suddenly began to carry a new label: high risk. The kind that makes executives nervous. The kind that turns invitations into silence. Even Spotify's actions raised eyebrows. Archived metadata linked to her podcast reportedly changed, and the children's names were quietly removed, a move that immediately set off speculation in both California and London. Not because it was loud, but because it was so careful. And then there was Harry. Sources claim he is no longer in California at all. Insiders say he is currently in Monte Carlo, separated from Meghan and spiraling under the pressure. One aide described him as psychologically unraveling, consumed by regret and fear. He has allegedly pleaded for a private meeting with his children, without Meghan present, believing this may be the last opportunity he will ever get. Somewhere between the Privy Council and Beverly Hills boardrooms, a new reality has taken shape. William has submitted records no one outside the inner circle has seen. Meghan has erased traces no mother removes without a reason. And Harry is drifting, alone, as the system he once mocked closes in around him. Princess Anne returned to the Royal Household Child Welfare Committee less than 48 hours after her first appearance. But what pressures could have driven such urgency? And what revelations might emerge from this unexpected second briefing? The day the crown moved for Archie and Lilibet. The clock struck exactly 10 a.m. inside the Royal Household Child Welfare Committee chamber when Princess Anne stood again, her second appearance in less than 48 hours, and the air instantly tightened. This was not a normal briefing, not a media performance, not a royal headline crafted for public sympathy. The room was sealed, guarded, and filled with UK High Court judges, child welfare officers, and senior privy councillors summoned under emergency protocol. Anne didn't soften her words. She didn't decorate them with emotion. Her voice was calm, almost surgical, as she announced that the children, Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana, had been placed in emotional danger through what she described as their mother's deliberate disengagement. The committee had moved beyond speculation. The concern was now documented, verified, and serious enough to trigger the highest level of royal legal response. Across the Atlantic, the contrast was brutal. Meghan Markle had been photographed on a luxury boat in Doha, champagne in hand, seated beside a powerful Middle Eastern media tycoon. The image looked like freedom, like victory, like reinvention. But inside the royal files, it was interpreted as something else entirely. Absence dressed as glamour. A confidential briefing file submitted by Princess Catherine revealed what the palace claimed were repeated failures to respond to urgent notices regarding the children's welfare. One report described Archie's growing silence in school, a withdrawal so noticeable it had been flagged. Another described Lilibet's night terrors and troubling drawings, images that raised alarms about fear and instability. The most damaging detail was not the reports themselves, but the silence afterward. No signature, no reply, not even a digital acknowledgement. Then Prince William took the floor, and the temperature in the chamber changed. His anger was controlled, but sharp. He made it clear the issue was no longer public reputation. It was about children being treated like assets, used when convenient, ignored when inconvenient. And then he revealed the document that hit like a hammer, a sealed affidavit from a former Sussex staffer claiming Meghan had once said, "Let the crown raise them. I have an empire to rebuild." For the committee, that sentence became the emotional breaking point. Meghan's legal team, based in California, responded with a cold technical dismissal, arguing that the UK interpretation of custodial negligence held no binding power under American family law. But that position underestimated what Anne had already set in motion. Within hours, she coordinated with the Foreign Office to activate a rarely used clause from the post-Brexit Windsor Convention, a bilateral family protection measure designed for emergencies involving royal minors abroad. On February 3, 2026, it was signed in triplicate by King Charles III, Prince William, and Princess Anne. The Crown assumed primary custodial guardianship, and then, quietly, a private jet landed at Santa Barbara Airport. Its mission name was Operation Dandelion. The world saw the Sussex story as a storm, yet the royal family acted with calculated control. But what unseen strategies and signals were really shaping this high-stakes drama? Let's uncover the details. The palace's quiet answer. In London, the world watched the Sussex story unravel like a public storm. But behind palace walls, the royal family moved with something far colder than anger: control. While headlines chased Meghan's next statement and Harry's silence, the monarchy responded in a language it has always trusted most: images, documents, and quiet decisions that do not need shouting to be understood. The clearest message arrived without ceremony. A photograph surfaced from Windsor, simple enough to look harmless at first glance. Prince Louis and Princess Charlotte seated in the enclosed rose garden, calm and composed, with a caption that carried the weight of a warning: "Family endures." No dramatic speech, no interviews, just a calm reminder that the crown does not chase. It waits. And while Los Angeles buzzed with reports of Meghan's legal team scrambling to protect her image, another royal scene played out in Windsor that felt almost surgical in its timing. On February 1st, the Palace Communications Office released a second image: Princess Charlotte standing beside Princess Anne and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, inside the Royal Archives wing. Charlotte's hand rested on an old ivory-handled letter opener said to have belonged to Queen Elizabeth II in her early reign. Behind them, a portrait of Elizabeth as a young woman stared forward like a silent witness. It looked like a family moment, but it was also a signal. That same morning, Meghan's latest legal maneuver, an attempt tied to Princess Diana's legacy, was formally rejected through a ruling chaired by Princess Anne. The wording, as insiders described it, was precise and devastating. No one, it declared, could turn Diana's institutional memory into commercial compensation, and marriage alone could not create ownership of royal legacy. There was no cruelty in it, just a door closing. Meghan, according to entertainment sources in California, expected a softer outcome, perhaps even a compromise from King Charles. Instead, the king reportedly backed Anne completely, supported by a confidential 2020 memorandum from Queen Elizabeth II that outlined protections against emotional claims being used as leverage. Even Oprah, once considered a powerful ally, was said to be furious that her name was still being pulled into parenting and branding narratives. Then came another quiet blow: whispers from inside Spotify suggesting Meghan's proposed 2026 podcast, redemption pitch had been pulled after early feedback described it as forced, overly packaged, and emotionally hollow. Meanwhile, the children remained silent, but not unseen. The palace didn't attack. It was reorganized. On February 2nd, Lord Alistair Pembroke, Lord President of the Privy Council, issued an addendum clarifying that royal trust transfers, including education protections for Archie and Lilibet, would now fall under a guardian restructure clause, listing Princess Catherine, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward as formal trustees. It wasn't revenge, it was an institutional correction. Later that day, Catherine appeared briefly on a palace balcony during a children's charity ceremony, still recovering from a medical procedure. Wearing the late Queen's sapphire brooch, she placed one gentle hand on Charlotte's shoulder, then stepped back so her daughter could receive a small floral tribute. 15 seconds, yet it felt like the future was being introduced. In the end, Meghan was still negotiating for optics. The royal family was investing in permanence, and the world could feel the difference. Windsor Castle sent its message without fanfare on February 1st, 2026. But what exactly did that silence reveal, and how did one child's defiance challenge the royal narrative? Windsor's quiet counterstrike. Windsor Castle did not need a speech, a balcony wave, or a grand announcement to send its message. On February 1st, 2026, it did it with something far sharper: silence, timing, and a child who refused to be packaged. The world was already burning with headlines after the official confirmation of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's separation. Across the Atlantic, Harry was reportedly unreachable in Oregon, and back in the United States, he was said to have refused a scheduled appearance at a veteran symposium in Arizona, citing unresolved legal trauma. His absence was noticed, not just by the press, but by those who understood what it meant when a royal stopped showing up. Meghan, meanwhile, was seen in California, filming glossy promotional content for a rumored solo lifestyle series called Reclaiming Grace. British media mocked it instantly, calling it a desperate attempt at aesthetic redemption. But the mockery wasn't the real danger. The real danger was the growing belief that royal identity, especially children, could be turned into a product. That was the moment Princess Catherine stepped forward, not in a palace setting, not with pomp, not with a rehearsed message. She arrived unannounced at a St. David's Trust charity event, dressed in a deep crimson wool coat, radiant but unshakable. It wasn't loud, yet it was unmistakable. The same kind of calm strength the monarchy used to rely on when storms came. Then Princess Charlotte moved. She held a small hand-stitched journal, the word hope, embroidered in gold. And when the cameras tilted toward her, she did something no royal child had done in living memory. She spoke, clearly, firmly, without trembling. "We are not currency. We are not stories for sale." The press line froze. Palace aides reportedly looked shaken, but no one stopped it. Because minutes later it became clear this wasn't a slip. It was approved. It was intentional. And it was devastating. For years, the Wales family had refused to answer Meghan's emotional appeals publicly. But something had shifted. The line was no longer about adults fighting for sympathy. It was about children being used as symbols, leverage, and headlines. Within hours, whispers spread through royal circles about a private memorandum drafted by Catherine, now circulating among constitutional advisors and child welfare committees. Its title alone sounded like a warning. The Safeguarding Doctrine. The document reportedly reinforced Queen Elizabeth II's custodial precedents, but went further, addressing modern threats like AI cloning, unauthorized image monetization, and digital identity theft. It was not just policy, it was a counterstrike. And as the sun set over Windsor on February 2nd, the future of the monarchy seemed to narrow into three sharp principles: responsibility, stewardship, and legacy. That future had a face, and it belonged to a young girl holding paper, memory, and the cost of survival. Her public image seemed controlled, innocent, even inspiring. But what does the sudden storm behind that Instagram story reveal about the tensions quietly building in the Sussex household? The Sussex kitchen fallout. Her publicist tried to calm the storm with a single Instagram story: soft lighting, warm smiles, and Archie in an apron, baking cookies like nothing in the world had changed. The message was meant to sound innocent, even inspiring, but the timing landed like a match thrown into dry grass. Because within minutes, the palace answered with a statement so short it felt like a warning carved in stone. Empowerment is not manipulation. Protection is not obstruction. Silence is not absence. And suddenly, every rumor people once dismissed started sounding dangerously real. Whispers of a branded children's cooking segment, quietly nicknamed Sussex Kitchen, spread across London and Los Angeles at the same time. Reports tied it to overseas sponsorship and a luxury Qatari backer, raising alarms inside UK broadcast circles. With the royal household already reshuffled, Prince Edward had been given new oversight powers, including legal review of how royal minors could be used abroad. Then came the documents. Leaked Sussex Foundation files, now under audit in both the UK and the US, allegedly laid out a legacy marketing plan approved in early January. School appearances, wardrobe sponsors, rollout dates, a calendar for childhood, a strategy for innocence. Princess Anne did not whisper. During a visit to the National Trust Archives, she spoke plainly. There would be no brand rollout for children. Within hours, a closed-door committee vote, led by Anne, William, and Sophie, triggered emergency privacy provisions under the updated 2023 Royal Privacy Act. And while Hollywood insisted Meghan was being scapegoated, deals quietly froze. Partners stepped back. The public mood shifted. By February 2, 2026, at 9:06 p.m. GMT, the final bulletin arrived. One line, one seal, one irreversible outcome. The crown had moved. Custody, image rights, and parental authority were no longer hers. So what do you think Harry's custody deal truly uncovered about Meghan and Andrew's hidden connection? And why is the palace panicking now? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe.